why Pierre doesn't care about housing and thinks that human rights should be taken away. Now, before you rush to the comments and accuse me of spreading misinformation, I would encourage you to take a second and copy and paste the links I've included in the description of this video so that you can fact check everything I've said here today. I've included a link to the Greenpeace article from which I'm getting all this information, and I've included Pierre Poilievre's voting history. So check for yourself. 2004, he voted against raising the federal minimum wage, Bill C-48. 2005, he defined marriage as a union between one man and one woman with the exclusion of all others. 2006, he voted against Bill C-31, an act respecting cost of living relief measures related to dental care and rental housing. 2008, he said Indigenous people needed to learn the value of hard work more than they needed compensation for residential schools. 2009, he voted against Bill C-31. He also used the term tar baby in the House of Commons. 2010, he voted against Bill C-31, an act respecting I'm repeating myself here. Are you seeing a pattern? He also received a government pension at 31. 2012, he voted to increase the age of eligibility for old age security and the guaranteed home income supplement from 65 to 67, meaning he made sure you had to be older in order to retire. He also expressed his support for eliminating dependable defined benefits pension and replacing them with inferior plans that take all the risk off banks and bosses and put it on the back of workers. 2013, he again voted against Bill C-31. He voted for Bill C-377, an act to amend the Income Tax Act. The bill required unions to publicly disclose the detailed financial information, including salaries, expenses, and political activities, seen widely as an attempt to undermine union autonomy. Pierre is not for the workers. He also worked to bring American-style anti-union laws to Canada. 2014, he voted against Bill C-31. Seeing a pattern? He voted for the introduction of the Fair Election Action, which aimed to make it harder for Canadians to vote. He voted for Bill C-525, Employees Voting Rights Act. It made it harder to unionize by replacing card check certification with a mandatory secret ballot vote, making it easier for employees to discourage unionization. He also promoted allowing employers to abandon the pension they promised their workers. In 2015, he voted against tax cuts for the working middle class, Bill C-2. In 2016, he voted against the expansion of the Canadian Pension Plan, the most significant improvement to Canada's public pension system in 50 years, and voted against the Canada Child Benefit. The CCB replaced the previous Universal Child Care Benefit. Poilievre opposed the change, criticizing for being redistributive and framed it as a part of big government. In 2018, he again voted against Bill C-31, an act respecting cost of living relief measures related to dental care and rental housing. 2019, he voted against Bill C-31. In 2020, he talked down the pandemic support that helped millions of Canadians pay their bills during the crisis. In 2021, he voted against a 10% increase to the old age security pension for those aged 75 and above. He also voted against $10 a day childcare program, which we only have because of the NDP. In 2021 also, he called childcare a slush fund and tried to cut programs that support the middle class. Can you imagine equating childcare to a slush fund? In 2022, he voted against tax-free first home savings accounts, Bill C-19. He voted against dental care bill C-31. He also used misogynist YouTube tags to court far-right supporters and encouraged Canadians to opt out on inflation with volatile cryptocurrencies. In 2021, he voted against a proposed $196.1 billion funding package aimed at reducing surgery and emergency room wait times. This funding was intended to address critical backlogs and improve patient care across the country. As we all know, Pierre would much rather have us privatize our healthcare and lose social services. Also in 2023, he followed the American far-right playbook to use anti-2S LGBTQI+ language, pushed an anti-vaccine agenda, committed to free votes, allowing his MP to bring forward anti-abortion legislation, supported illegal convoy blockades, delivered a speech to a group that claimed it was a myth that residential schools robbed Indigenous children of their childhood, and posed with someone wearing a straight pride shirt during Pride season. In 2024, he voted against taxing the rich by opposing raising the capital gains inclusion rate. He voted against support for Ukraine. He voted against National School Food Program. The 2024 federal budget included significant investment in a national school food program. Polyev has publicly criticized it and has not committed to supporting it. He voted against Bill C-24, an act respecting pharmacare free diabetes medication. He voted against Petition E-4516 for free access to prescriptive contraceptives across Canada. And if you're not already aware, states in the U.S. that have anti-abortion laws have higher rates of infant mortality. That link will also be in the bio. Also in 24, he visited and courted far-right extremist groups, said he'd use the notwithstanding clause overriding Canadians' rights, announced his intention to eliminate the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund if elected Prime Minister. He criticized the fund, stating that it was ineffective and contributed to increased bureaucracy, therefore hindering housing construction. And in 25, Polyev stated he is only aware of 2 genders and that bathrooms should be exclusive for men and for women, while also saying that the government should not involve itself with questions of gender identity. Unfortunately, there's a huge amount of people who still need to hear this, but there aren't only 2 genders. Even if we're not talking about transgender people, in nature, there are many genders. You can have an XY chromosome, you can have an XX chromosomes, you can have one X chromosome, you can have 2 X's and a Y chromosome, and you can have one Y chromosome. Additionally, there are over 300 species that are transgender. Just look at the ducks. The ducks are fully transgender. Seahorses, fully transgender. And additionally, every single biological male started out as a female. Every fetus of a human being starts as female, and then at a certain stage in the pregnancy transitions to male if it has an XY chromosome. The science is there. It's irrefutable. The only reason to deny the existence of trans people is to amplify voices of ignorance and hate.